Who could resist at bedtime watching a distressing episode of Wilderness Building, especially when your phone has less than 50% battery left? Grab a charging cable, snuggle under your own blanket, and start today's little bedtime story. 8 had just graduated and immediately found himself unemployed. He inherited a small plot of his grandfather's land and decided to build his own shelter in the wild. Before officially starting construction, he spent 7 days collecting timber. Each log's diameter had to be over 30 centimeters, so the finished house would feel safe. After a week of felling and trimming, he ended up with nearly 50 logs. Next, he used a chainsaw on site to debark them. So that insects wouldn't nest inside. Finally, he brought in the logging truck to haul these beefy logs back. It took until the next day to get all the logs back home, because transporting these logs cost quite a bit of money. So before starting the build, Ake had to rake in some cash first. Only with money can you make money. That's an unchanging truth. Thinking of the ultimate cash machine, of course, it's a sawmill. Before building the log cabin, he decided to first build a little sawmill, set up a workplace both for living and working, and then build the log house later. First, he picked a site for the sawmill, making sure there were no giant trees above that could fall and crush the operation. Then he grabbed the brush cutter and cleared out all the grass in the area. Only after tidying it up and getting it clean can the later steps get underway. With the lawn trimmed, he fired up the excavator to start digging the foundation pit. During construction in the wild, the excavator was the one tool used the most. After all, pouring concrete and leveling the ground are just pieces of cake for it. He first poured a layer of lean concrete to set the foundation. Once the concrete had set, he began setting the steel reinforcement. Rebar always plays a crucial role for long-term, durable projects. This time the sawmill, even if it's just a temporary structure, still had to be a sturdy and dependable one. With the rebar frames in place, he switched over to packaging the cement. After all the materials were ready, he started pouring the columns, pour the concrete and embed the steel pipes at once to provide better vertical support. After another 2 days passed, the concrete had fully cured. Then he brought over some channel steel and angle iron and started welding them into the frame, because steel is more reliable than wood for load-bearing structures. After the sawmill gets built, there'll be heavy machines working inside, so all the bottom supports had to be made of steel. Only then would it be able to handle the weight. After the steel feed frame was completed, he moved on to the top layer of steel beams. In the end, the entire shop was made from steel, from bottom to top. Once the main structure was assembled, he installed channel steel pulleys and tracks, so that any material moving around could be handled effortlessly. After the workshop framework was fully done, he got to work on the roof. Using thick iron panels for the roof would provide much better protection. Finally, he layered on plastic greenhouse sheets, so later in winter, it would keep him warm while he worked. The sawmill's main structure was basically complete. Now it was time to start building the machines, provided, of course, that he had money in hand. If there wasn't enough money, he might still have to get creative. He dragged out the welding machine and got started making the tools he needed, because he had welding skills. Making these things was quite easy for him. First, he made a horizontal sliding base to use as a workbench bracket. He welded on the wheels underneath, and then added tracks for them to run on. That way, when operating later, he could push and pull with almost no effort. After the platform went together, he started assembling the imperfect machine frame. Since the machine would handle loads of wood, the frame had to be solid enough for tight connections. He used a variety of angle irons and bolts. When it came to tightening bolts, he made sure none were left loose. After finishing the machine frame, the last piece was the saw head assembly. He mounted a brushless motor first, as the core power source. This thing's advantages are obvious: powerful, stable, and long-lasting. Then he chose a chain as the actual cutting element. This would make later maintenance much more convenient. After final assembly, he officially welcomed the sawmill's first day. He turned the key, and the brand new sawmill started humming. The saw chain spun quickly, and wood chips began to fly. To cut logs cleanly and evenly, that chain had to stay sharp. The first run out of lumber proved that this machine's performance was top-notch. For this first cut, he was going to make some boards. He adjusted the slider to the correct thickness, and then kept feeding the log forward with a simple push. Enough boards for a panel were cut. Only the truly durable material gets used for his house build. Next, he tried cutting planks of different thicknesses to prepare for subsequent assembly. He even tried cutting at different angles to get the pieces he needed. After the lumber cutting was done, he started planning the shop's interior. He made a cutting station, so smaller pieces could be processed here, with woodworking in full swing. He could finally get the house started. At the same time, he prepped building materials for the house. Anything he could make himself, he would never buy. Next, he put together a small table and installed it onto the tracks. With this table in place, he could do angle and cross cuts easily. Then he brought in his best helper, the chainsaw. From cutting to smoothing to planing, he did it all himself, giving each piece its final finishing and polish. Once he had all the wood prepared, he began assembling the sawmill's roof. The main material this time was heavy timber beams. Thicker beams make for better support. Then he added wooden purlins across the top, so the roof would be even stronger. After every beam was set in place, the sawmill looked even more professional. Without wasting time, he started mounting the roof panels. A round of screws later, the sawmill finally had its roof on. After adding a ceiling edge and trimming it up, this raw industrial look is exactly the style he likes. Next, he fabricated the saw carriage and tracks used for milling boards. With these parts in place, he could carry out precise cutting operations. After all the tracks were installed, he started processing the logs. He raised the saw head to a suitable height, then pushed the log onto the carriage, like butter under a blade. Layer after layer peeled away as the wood spun. Perfect-looking boards appeared. Once you have this kind of setup, cutting boards is simply too easy. Finally, he made sure every board was cut to the exact same thickness to smooth the rough logs. He also built a simple planer. You can't imagine the amount of work the sawmill handled for him. This whole place was custom built for him, just to make his life easier. After the shop's machinery was all set, he got to work on the log house's foundation. After all, a fine horse needs a good saddle, and a beautiful house needs a solid foundation. Otherwise, the final result won't be good. He brought the excavator over again to level the build space. First, he scraped away the fertile topsoil and then compacted the ground underneath. Then he started digging drainage ditches so the site wouldn't retain water. Once the ground was leveled, he began laying out the house plan. He measured the size of every room carefully to make the later build easier. After the measurements were done, he started building the house's foundation frame. First pour lean concrete as the base footing. Then spend 2 days carefully building up the base so the support would be solid and firm. When all that was finished, he began carrying the logs in. He started by placing the ground sills that directly touched the soil. He used heavy preservatives on the timber so the wood wouldn't rot so easily. Only after this treatment did he start placing the subsequent rows of logs. Each log got notched at the ends so they would interlock more tightly. When building the walls, use half-lap joints to ensure that the finished walls don't deform easily. A month later, the ground floor structure was finally finished. The next step was to install windows and doors so the house would be more livable. He used chainsaws to cut the openings and adjusted and trimmed the edges. Then he swapped in a cutting disc to polish down the rough surfaces. A final round of sanding made the wood look smooth and refreshing. After the door and window opening was ready, he moved on to installing a whole house water pipe layout. He first installed the main valve and inlet, and then set pipes running to every room. Next, he added switches so he could shut off the water to each room independently. When everything was done, he started decorating inside. He turned eccentric-shaped log ends into a cool interior feature wall. This was where creativity and aesthetics got to take center stage. As the first floor interior wrapped up, he started preparing the second floor's flooring. He laid plywood across the beams and fixed it all down with screws. Using plywood instead of boards would make the second floor feel more solid. After finishing the flooring, he started assembling the upper walls. He nailed on long logs one by one, and soon the second floor took shape. With the second floor basically done, the most important roof work began. He prepared to giant beams ahead of time, so the house's structure would be strong enough. Only with a good frame can a roof be considered reliable. For the rafters, he also chose quality wood, making each one with extra care. Finally, over a long period of work, the roof prototype was completed. After a busy day like this, he put the steak in the pan for a quick sear. After toughening it up over a true 3-flame heat, he went on to melt the pork fat in the pan and tossed in the freshly cut fries. If you're talking about a power meal, steak and fries are a must. Just listen to that sizzle. It makes you want to wolf down a bowl of rice. Looking at that tender color, it'd make you drool. With that, Ake's temporary wild dwelling was complete. The room wasn't very big, but the layout was quite reasonable. It was also very comfortable to live in. This way, when he builds his big log cabin later, everything will be even more convenient.